pounds Texas as snow falls across the Great Lakes. And in western North Carolina, wildfires are still burning this morning.
The fight continues through the air and on the ground.
Years after the Great Flood of 1913, we'll look back on its lasting impact in Ohio.
Temporarily store waters that prevents them from coming downstream and flooding the city.
We're monitoring a volcano in Alaska for a potential eruption and breaking down fact from fiction when it comes to tornado myths.
Tornadoes can and do travel across bodies of water. Some even form on water.
And why you may want to start your spring garden inside your home.
From our nation's capital, this is the No Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Janae Bowens. The 3 wildfires continue to burn near Asheville, North Carolina, with little signs of slowing down. Combined, those fires have burned over 5,000 acres, with 2 of them being 0% contained. Now, those from the North Carolina Forest Service and local firefighters have been battling them for days. Reinforcements from surrounding states have been brought in to help. But windy conditions continue to make things difficult. Ed DiOrio is in Polk County southeast of Asheville with more.
The fight continues through the air and on the ground. And it's not getting easier.
We have been able to divert firefighters from the Fishhook fire on
taken thousands of acres. That prompted the response from crews from Alabama, Oregon, Tennessee, Michigan, Montana, and South Carolina.
That gives us a better range of options that we can use in terms of strategies for how we're going to try to get containment up on these fires.
However, Green River Cove addresses from 1091 to 1528 and all of Lady Slipper Trail were ordered to evacuate on Saturday. So the owners of the Green River Eddie's Tap Room.
She texted me back and said, hey, we need 150 by 5 o'clock. And I said, we got it.
Have been providing hundreds of meals so that the brave men and women can keep going. For Eddie's executive chef, David Ashmore, these meals mean a little extra. Ashmore is a former firefighter.
It means a whole lot to me because I know what they're going through right now. This is a small community and everybody comes together and helps out.
They've been a great help in terms of what they've been able to offer us, and we really appreciate all of the support and the reaching out that we've seen from the community.
Now check out this map of Arkansas. It shows there's a burn ban in almost every county across the state. They've been in effect since last week when there was an extreme wildfire danger. While the state has received some rain since then, it hasn't been enough to lift the bans. Emma Allen has more.
We just try to protect the community best we can, first responders and everybody.
Pulaski County's Office of Emergency Management Deputy Director Catherine Arnold says when that 2,000-acre wildfire was burning in western Pulaski County on Monday, her office immediately began looking at burn bans for the county. That's a recommendation they send to the county judge, who then approves it.
We look at different things that involve how much rain we've had, humidity, what the wind speeds are.
Arnold says even a simple flick of a cigarette out of a car has the potential to start a massive fire because of conditions outside.
Not having a lot of rainfall, the grass, it's brown, it's not green yet. We're just getting into spring, so it doesn't take much to start something with the brown grass.
A hailstorm pounding portions of Texas last night. This video was taken in Kerrville, northwest of San Antonio. A viewer sent this photo to our station there. If you can't tell, that's a baseball-sized hailstone, which can cause incredible damage. The storm was also accompanied by incredible lightning, which other viewers captured on camera and sent in via chime-in. Most of the nation is getting a break from snow this morning, but not portions of northern Wisconsin and Michigan. Snow started falling yesterday and will continue in some places until later this morning or early afternoon. The only other places expecting measurable snow today are portions of New York State and northern New England. Now, this week marks 6 months since Helene made landfall in Florida. It slammed the state's Gulf Coast, bringing a destructive storm surge before moving inland. That's where it brought catastrophic flooding to the southern Appalachians, especially western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee. Meteorologist Kit Alexander takes a look back at how rainfall before Helene's arrival contributed to the destruction level.
It has been 6 months since Helene ravaged the southern Appalachians. Widespread, unprecedented flooding occurred, causing hundreds of fatalities and billions in property damage. The impacts from Helene were extensive, as multiple towns and communities were rocked by tropical storm wind gusts and inundated with rain.
My mother and father-in-law also had a home here, and that was lost. It was total loss as well. So we're just looking to relocate and start over and keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Helene hit Damascus pretty hard. A lot of people, lost a lot, lost everything, and there's still a lot to be done.
One of the main reasons the southern Appalachians was severely impacted was due to something known as a predecessor rain event. This is a term that meteorologists use to indicate a storm system that has massive impacts when it comes to rainfall and flooding.
One of the biggest factors was that we had precipitation that started much earlier in the week. Helene wasn't due to come through. We didn't know exactly where it was coming, but we knew that there was a lot of precipitation before the actual tropical system moved our way.
112 years ago this week, the Great Flood of 1913 caused widespread death and destruction across 11 states. At the time, it was the nation's most widespread natural disaster. More than 600 people lost their lives, with as many as 470 of those deaths in Ohio. 4 days of heavy rainfall combined with snow melt sent rivers over their banks. Dayton was the hardest hit city, where 20 feet of water filled streets for days. In the wake of the disastrous flooding Hurricane Harvey caused in Texas back in 2017, our station in Dayton looked back on the Great Flood and the lasting impact it made. Here's former Dayton anchor Nathan Edwards' story from August of 2017.
We learn from history so it doesn't repeat itself.
It was a tragedy unlike Ohio had ever seen and has ever seen since.
The Great Flood of 1913 killed 400. Dayton floated in 20 feet of water for days. This blue line at Carillon Park provides some perspective.
We would be very far underwater right now.
Leo DeLuca says the recovery is more impressive than the destruction.
It says, remember the promises you made in the attic.
A slogan used to gather private donations.
They raised over $2 million in 1913.
That would cost $49 million today, funding 5 dams and multiple levees, keeping our rivers from overflowing.
It's built up to keep the water from going over into the city.
Kurt Reinhardt is the chief engineer maintaining the Dane Miami Conservancy District.
They temporarily store waters that prevents them from coming downstream and flooding the cities.
This dam in Inglewood is designed to hold back 100 feet of water, but a weather event that big is unlikely here in the Miami Valley.
But when you're talking 40 or 50 inches of rain, whether it's Houston or anywhere else, that's just a lot of rain.
Kurt says our dams are different than other cities. They're self-sustaining, keeping water trapped in our metro parks, holding up to 40% more than the Great Flood produced.
To ensure that our city would never flood again.
Even though Houston and Dayton are different, there's one thing connecting both: the spirit to rebuild.
It seems that tragedy and these awful experiences oftentimes are what bring people closer together.
In Anchorage, Alaska, people are on high alert as the Mount Spur volcano continues to show signs of unrest. According to the Alaska Observatory, there have been numerous small earthquakes under the volcano, raising concern of an impending eruption. There is also steam and gas coming from the mountain summit. Officials say there are plans in place to keep residents safe should an eruption happen. The volcano sits about 80 miles outside of Anchorage and last erupted in 1992. The nation's capital is on full bloom watch this morning. The National Park Service says the cherry trees along the tidal basin have reached stage 5, known as the puffy white stage. Up next, the 6th and final stage, peak bloom. Several trees are already fully bloomed. Peak bloom is defined as the day when 70% of the blossoms are open. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, it's severe weather season. We'll show you how you can spot the signs of an incoming thunderstorm. And we'll debunk some common myths about tornadoes.
I'm meteorologist Ryan Munn. Let's get a look at the Northeast as we head through Monday. Snow for many areas in northern New England, in particular Maine, with rain down towards southern New England. And then for the day Tuesday, the sunshine will return, especially in southern New England as we head through the afternoon. Maybe a rain or snow shower up towards the north. Snowfall-wise, we could be looking at a couple inches of snow as you head up towards the north and Maine, with high temperatures generally running in the 40s and 50s.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We're going to be seeing rain around for your Monday morning into the early afternoon. We'll start to see the rain pushing out. As this cold front's going to move out, we will also brighten up. Temperatures will take a little bit of a dip come Tuesday, and we could see a few more showers a little bit further on the south side in the Virginia region. But what we're going to be looking at is at least some decent temperatures before that front passes through. Mid-60s there Monday afternoon. We'll be a little cooler into the low 60s as we get into Tuesday.
I am meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. We have a cold front boundary that's moving across the southeast, bringing the potential for showers and thunderstorms all the way from the Gulf Coast to parts of the Carolinas, heading through the day on Monday. That front will gradually shift its way to the south, weakening to bring the chance for rain to South Florida by Tuesday. But sunshine returns heading into Tuesday for much of the southeast. Temperatures will remain in the upper 60s in northern Alabama and Georgia, and in the mid-80s in South Florida.
The National Weather Desk.
Officials in Michigan are about to begin the walleye egg collection. The collection happens every year from late March to early April. Meteorologist Trevor Robideau shows us the process and where the eggs go.
The Muskegon River in Newaygo County has the largest run of walleye from Lake Michigan south of Green Bay. The DNR collects nearly 26 million eggs from the walleye that run on the river. The DNR begins the process in late March and early April, but the exact start date depends on the conditions of the water and the fish.
It's photo period as to when these fish run, its flow, its water temperature. When walleye make their run up the rivers, the spawning process, it doesn't last very long once the males and females are together in the river system.
Officers will collect the fish through a process called electrofishing, which immobilizes the fish long enough for the DNR to collect the eggs. This does not harm the fish.
We want to just stun them enough to where we can collect them, bring them back to the boat launch. They look at the ripeness of the males and the females and put those in fish collection baskets right at the site.
Once the nearly 26 million eggs are collected, they are sent to different hatcheries around the state.
The right number for us is right around 4 million eggs received. And for us, that should produce about 2 million walleye fry for subsequent use for fisheries management here in the state.
The staff here will place the eggs in specialized jars where they pay close attention to the eggs and monitor their progress.
These jars have water basically that goes down in a tube into the middle of the bottom of the jar.
Spring has sprung, and it's about time to fill your planters with soil and seedlings. But depending on where you live, meteorologist Ryan Munn says it may be best to start the seeds indoors.
Things like peppers, tomatoes, squash, most of your flowering plants, you're going to want to probably start those indoors and keep them in for about 6 weeks.
Johnny Rowe from Skillin says many greens like spinach, kale, broccoli, and lettuce you'll want to start now and plant outdoors soon.
When the temperatures start to kind of dip to that 40-degree mark, you kind of want to bring them in and slowly kind of acclimate them to a range of temperatures. If they've been inside all year, either their entire life, then they don't want to go immediately from like these temperatures out to those temperatures.
You'll want to water the seedlings from the bottom and mist from the top. It's best to have them in damp but not soggy soil and plenty of sunlight.
You want to make sure that you don't have drafts, so if it's next to that big glass door that's open all the time, that might not be the most ideal location.
When planting your seeds, you'll want to spread them apart, allowing for room to grow. And it may be a good idea to keep records of every step.
The biggest thing learning how to grow your own crops is to keep a logbook, because the next year you will not remember when you sowed those aster seeds. You won't know when you sowed those tomato seeds.
Spring isn't just planting season, it's also thunderstorm season. Meteorologist Elia Naiman shows us how you can spot an incoming thunderstorm just by looking to the sky.
So what does it look like when you see a thunderstorm in your neighborhood? This is courtesy of our good friend Thomas Alfio Marion from Northeast Bakersfield, who took this shot. And this is a telltale sign of what we call a cumulonimbus cloud. It starts off with warm air rising up into an updraft. You can see that billowing cloudiness. As it hits the top of the tropopause, it spreads out into an anvil, and the anvil is really what actually brings the top of the cloud out and shows us a thunderstorm is in progress. So that is what we look for from the ground up with the anvil, and then the cold air starts to sink down, and that is what we call a downdraft. And within that area, you've got rain, sometimes hail, and lightning can develop in between this, and occasionally other forms of severe weather, like strong winds and larger hail, and sometimes, yes, even the occasional funnel cloud or even tornado.
Often those spring thunderstorms can bring tornadoes, and unfortunately there are too many myths about them that people still believe. Meteorologist Matt Gunn helps separate fact from fiction.
There are still some myths of tornadoes that continue to be spread. Some of the most common are that tornadoes can't cross bodies of water, they never strike cities twice, it's safe to take shelter underneath an overpass or bridge, and they do not hit large cities. These myths are all false. Tornadoes can and do travel across bodies of water. Some even form on water. Those are called water sprouts. Twisters can strike at any time, and that means that yes, they can hit the same location more than once. Overpasses act as a strong wind tunnel, which may cause even more debris to be flying around, thus causing you more harm. The last myth I'll speak on is that tornadoes don't hit big cities. Tornadoes do not care about the size of the city they hit. They can happen at any point during the year and hit any city during the year.
Have you ever heard of grapple? Meteorologist Mitchell Coombs explains what it is and how it forms.
So how do these hail lookalikes form and what makes them special? Grapple begins the same way as most winter precipitation types, as snowflakes in the clouds. This is where the process gets a bit more complicated. As the snowflake falls through the atmosphere, it reaches a layer of supercooled water droplets. Essentially, the water droplets exist below 32 degrees. As the snowflake continues its journey to the surface, these water droplets begin to freeze on the surface of the snowflake. This accretion process, known as riming, then creates these mini snowballs. Grapple can even mimic snowfall as it accumulates. Grapple pellets typically form between 2 and 5 millimeters in size. While grapple may resemble hail and sleet, there is one key difference between them. While hail and sleet are solid ice, grapple is quite fragile and crushable. This is why it gets the nickname soft hail. Grapple is not considered particularly hazardous in its own right, but it can create dangerous conditions during the winter season. If a layer of snow is followed by a thick layer of grapple, the next layer of snow will not pack tight, leading to instability in a slope that could result in avalanches at higher elevations. The grapple would act much like ball bearings between two layers of pow. Additionally, a heavy downburst of grapple can create brief whiteout conditions for drivers.
In 1950, the World Meteorological Organization was formed. Sunday marked the anniversary of its creation. Meteorologist Emily Gracie has more.
World Meteorological Day is recognized every year on March 23rd to commemorate the establishment of the World Meteorological Organization in 1950. The WMO is a specialized agency of the United Nations with the purpose of facilitating the exchange of weather data across national borders. While the WMO dates back just 73 years, the concept goes way back to 1873 when the first International Meteorological Congress was held in Vienna. While the structure of the organization has evolved over the past 150 years, the mission is the same: the free and unrestricted exchange of data and research related to environmental protection, climate change, resource management, and socioeconomic development. This year's theme, Closing the Early Warning Gap Together, highlights the vital role early warning systems play in preventing and mitigating disasters worldwide. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
And time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over Buffalo Hills Elk Ranch in Nebraska.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Sarah Converse. Looking at mild temperatures for most of the Midwest and varying cloud cover. Columbus looking at a temperature of around 56, Cincinnati 56, but a low pressure system in the Great Lakes is producing some snow for Michigan, 39 with some snow and wind. Tonight, looking at overall dry conditions with another disturbance passing through by late tonight.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Looked forecast across the region. We're tracking a few showers and storms, possibly some severe weather near New Orleans this morning. That will push off to the east. We're quiet for the rest of the day. Otherwise, 70s and 80s, partly to mostly sunny. We'll watch for a few pop-up storms across central and southern Texas late tonight, but they'll be isolated. Drop back to the 40s and 50s for most overnight, 60s along the coast. And then it'll be another nice day, but hotter on your Tuesday.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Monday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, well, here comes the heat again. Look at Phoenix, back to 95 for our Monday afternoon. Upper 60s around Santa Barbara and a perfect 75 in the city by the bay. The PNW wrapping up the weekend storm. It's still going to rain for a few hours in Seattle and certainly close to the BC border. High pressure, though, will bring some record warmth to Portland and Seattle later this week. And that's the scene from here.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
When you think of weather fronts, only two may come to mind, but meteorologist Noah Hawk tells us about another common front.
Fronts you're most familiar with, but there is another one that's not as well known, called a dry line. Now this is going to form as you have a low pressure system come off the Rockies to help funnel drier air from the west into the plains, but it's also going to funnel Gulf moisture up towards that low pressure center as well. Now, a front is typically an indication of a great difference in temperature between two different air masses, but in the case of a dry line, it's actually going to indicate a great difference in moisture content. And the temperature between the two air masses is actually not all that great. So when this dry line gets set up initially, you're going to have that dry air move in from the west over top, and you're going to have that more humid air move up from the south and sit below the dry air. But humid air actually happens to be less dense than dry air, so they're going to switch places, and that humid air is going to get lofted into the atmosphere and start the initiation of those clouds, and even in certain circumstances, cause a severe weather outbreak.
you so much for joining us. I'm Janae Bowens. Make it a great day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.